Morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us this morning. This is our webinar on ergonomic tools for equipment justification. A few housekeeping points as we start. As always, we will try and keep to 45 minutes. And if everyone can stay muted throughout, that'd be brilliant. Any questions that you may have as we go along, please put them in the chat box, and we will try and get as many of them answered as we can. If any questions are unanswered as we go through the session, because of time restraints, we'll make sure we get back to you afterwards via email or whatever. So today we are joined by occupational therapist Gill Creighton. She has been on the job for years and has got fantastic experience on how to use these tools to get through to get equipment justified. So I will hand over to her and go from there. Thanks, Jill.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Okay, so yes, it can be very difficult at times to get funding agreement for equipment. You have to justify your decision, and it can be really quite difficult and time consuming to find the evidence that you need. And so we can look at some simple ergonomic tools that can be a great help in supporting applications for funding. And it can give the budget holders really clear evidence for the need for the equipment. So the first thing is, what are ergonomic systems? It's a scientific study of human work that looks at ergonomic gain and purposeful activity. But actually, really simply, it's just the study of people's efficiency in their occupational environment. So there are actually three or triple aims of ergonomics in health and social care. They're split into three groups. You have the service user, the employees, and organisations. And you'll see that there's similarities in the aims between service users and employees, and in the wellbeing section between employees and organisations. So what should you have in your ergonomic toolkit? You can have task analysis, Likert scales, discomfort and symptoms charts, and postural analysis and risk scoring. And today we're just going to look at the simple tools of task analysis, symptoms charts, Likert and BORG scales. Before we look at those, we have our client. And for the purposes of today, he's an older person with arthritis and pain in most of his joints. His lower back is especially painful on movement. He has tissue paper skin and has a grade 3 pressure ulcer on his sacrum, which is healing well. He's very anxious and dislikes carers touching him. He has no weight bearing ability and he's fully hoisted for all transfers. We're going to be looking at the task, which is rolling him on the bed. He can't roll on the bed. Two carers have to log roll him to carry out personal care tasks and to insert and remove his sling. So the first ergonomic tool that we're going to look at is task analysis, which will give us a simple outline of the stages undertaken during the task. And it will help to identify which part of the task is most difficult. This is an example of a task carried out manually and identifies the most difficult part of the task. So we break the task down, we observe the task and we break it down. So this is rolling the client in bed with two carers. So first of all, you raise and lower the bed to the correct height, lower the headrest and knee break, remove the covers and reassure the client. Then you ask the client to turn the head, assist them to move their arms and legs, continue to reassure the client. And then one carer places their hands on the client's hips and shoulders and pulls back, while the other carer places hands next to the other carer and pushes. I'm not going to read the other two out, you can see them. And so it breaks it down so that we can actually identify which are the riskiest or most difficult parts of a task. So boxes 3 and 4 do appear to be the most difficult or the riskiest. And we're actually going to focus on box 3, which is the act of rolling the client onto his side. But today we're not actually going to do it manually. He's had that for a while. We're going to use in situ slide sheets for the task analysis. So at this juncture, could our carers, would it be possible to do that now?
If our client can jump on the bed.
Our client who has no weight bearing ability.
Yes, and he's also an older gentleman and
with arthritis. Right, so watch carefully and think about the different stages. So would you like to do the rolling onto his side?
The other thing we should point out here is that we've got 2 different types of carers, which is going to have an impact on the task as well.
Yeah.
So we've already raised the bed to a safe working height, and we've reassured our client. What we're going to do now is prepare his position for the movement. So we're going to put this arm across his chest and move this one away from his body. Then we're going to use the in situ slide sheets and to move him towards this side of the bed. So ready, steady, go. That's it. Then put the sheet over him. Again. 1, 2, 3. Into the sideline position. There we go.
All right, thank you very much. So it's actually a good exercise to practice doing task analysis. And you can use this very simple blank little flow chart with the task and then the different stages. It's up to you how many stages you break the task down into, but keep it simple, so not too many. And you could practice doing this with maybe carers carrying a bowl of hot water to the client's bedside, or maybe assisting them to lift their legs into bed. But today we're actually looking at this task of rolling the client on the bed. And you can think about how they did the task and you can complete your own analysis. We do actually tend to do this automatically when we're watching somebody, but it's useful to put it down on paper, and you can actually use that task analysis as part of your equipment funding justification. The next thing we're going to look at is Likert scales, and I'm sure you're all really familiar with these. It's a scale of 1 to 10 that the client scores, with 1 the least and 10 the most. You need to decide what issues you're going to record on a Likert scale. Here we've got pain, anxiety on the part of the client, and you could also score something like the risk of skin shearing when they're rolled manually on the bed or with different bits of equipment. And you can use these with the carers as well and ask them to score things like their pain levels when they carry out the task. So they're really useful tools. You can use them to establish your client's levels of pain or anxiety as well, from no pain to extreme pain. Okay, so we know about those, they're simple. And the next one we're going to look at is the RPE, or BORG scale. It's the rating of perceived exertion, and it's widely used, and it's a reliable indicator to monitor and guide exercise intensity. It allows individuals to subjectively rate their level of exertion, and it was developed by someone called Gunnar Borg, and is often therefore referred to as the BORG scale. And the scoring is based on heart rate. So this is what it looks like. And you've got tasks from exertion none, which will be scored as 6, which would be your heart rate of 60. And that would be just something like sitting reading a book or watching television, right up to very, very hard, which would be just like a finishing kick in a race or other burst of activity that really speeds up your heart rate and breathing. And you can use this BORG scale to identify how hard a task is for carers. Carers have different levels of ability and strength, and they'll score differently. And you can also use it with the client to find out how effortful the task is for them, because they find things quite a lot of effort sometimes as well, even when we're using equipment. And the next tool we're going to look at is the body map. This is really, really simple, and it can be used again for both your carers and your client. You just colour in the section on the body map that relates to the body area that's got pain or discomfort. We know that our client has lower back pain, and so you would colour in the area on the body map that shows lower back pain. So for the client, it would be 36, 37 and 46. You can actually use different colours for different degrees of pain or discomfort. So just to go through those again, here's a completed Likert scale with the carers rolling manually. Actually, that was with the slide sheet, I think, and then rolling with the Vendlet. Okay, and then the BORG scale. This was scoring the client. Manually, he found the task hard and tiring. It was quite difficult for him. And you can actually also use the BORG scale, like I said, to identify how hard the task is for the carers. And we will be looking at some more completed tools a bit later on. Then we had the body map, and this is a body map looked filled in. This is again with the slide sheet, and then mechanically with the Vendlet.
Should we show the difference now with using the Vendlet?
Yes, please.
So again, we've got our same client on the bed, and this time, because we're using a mechanised system, we can just have one carer for this one. So using the Vendlet, if people aren't familiar with it, it's a mechanical slide sheet that's attached to a normal community style profiling bed. So what I'm going to do is prepare his position in the same way. His arm across his chest and that arm away from his body. Then I'm going to use the Vendlet to mechanically turn him. Just shift that top leg forward into a sideline position, so it's no manual effort, it's just a guide rather than a lift. And then I can boost him back into the middle of the bed. So that's mechanically using the Vendlet. And for the purposes of comparison, we can also get our other carer to use the Vendlet as well, so that we can properly compare against the in situ slide sheet. Okay. There you go. Perfect. There you go.
Right, okay. So there's the body map showing after using the Vendlet. So, right, first of all then, using the Likert scale with the client, how did our client rate pain on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 at no pain and 10 at extreme pain?
I would say about 9.
9, okay. And what about anxiety?
I would say about 8.
Okay. And carers, what do you think the risk of skin sharing would have been?
Well, to do the actual turn, it's kind of more of an accelerated pull rather than a mechanical turn. So I would have said about 6.
Right. Okay. Right, so then we looked at the BORG scale with the Vendlet. And so how did we rate on the BORG scale? How much effort was it for the client?
I'd say about 9.
About 9, okay. Right, and then the other thing we were going to look at with the client to start with is the body map. He had pain in his arms, lower back, or one arm, lower back and leg, upper leg. Initially. With the Vendlet, that was much reduced, as we could see. Okay, thank you. So using the slide sheets, we rated 9 for pain, 8 for anxiety, and 8 for skin shearing. And with the Vendlet, 3 for pain, 2 for anxiety, and 1 for skin shearing. And then on the BORG scale, with the slide sheets, it was initially, he found it quite hard, and he was scoring 15 to 16. And then with the Vendlet, it came down to very light. He was scoring 7 to 8. So we can also score our carers and how they found the different tasks. So we didn't score them on the Likert scale, but we did on the BORG scale. And we scored both of our carers. And carer 1, using the slide sheets, actually found it very light, and scored it 9 to 10. And then using the Vendlet was very, very light. And with the other carer, found it much harder and scored 15 to 16 using the slide sheet. And this came down to 11 to 12 with the Vendlet. Okay. So we have some forms filled out, I think, that Harvey's going to share with you later on. We're going to send out to you.
It'd be good to go through how you think those filled in forms should be presented, and then how they're typically received by commissioners and people that sign these things off.
Yeah. Okay. I've done the 2 comparisons. I've got the client's name at the top. And then we've got one column here, and I don't know if you can see that, you possibly can't. We've got one column here, which was doing it with a slide sheet. And then we've got the next column here, doing it using the Vendlet. And it's not that easy to see this. This was supposed to be in colour, but it got printed out in black and white. And the colours highlight quite clearly the effort involved with one piece of equipment and with the other piece of equipment. So this is with a slide sheet, this is hard, this is with a Vendlet, this is light. And it can be seen at a real quick glance, the difference in effort for the client. You can do something very similar to for the carers. On my piece of paper, it doesn't really show up because it's only printed out in black and white, and mine was initially in colour. Again, with the Likert scales, you can put them on a form like this. Again, I don't know how well you can see that. We've got the client's name at the top, and the task, and this is number 10 here, and this is with the slide sheets, this is with the Vendlet, and this is pain, anxiety, risk of skin shearing. And you can see at a glance, comparing them, the differences in doing the task with the different pieces of equipment. And then on the body map, again, you can put that on one sheet. This is the front and back of the person, and this was for the carer. And this was doing the task with the slide sheet, and you've coloured in back pain. And this is the back of the body, this is the front of the body. and arm pain. And then with the Vendlet, the back pain's gone, but there's still a little bit of arm pain. I think that Harvey will be making those available for you later. And when you've got all your ergonomic tools completed and filled out, you can put them in a pack to show the differences between the task as it's carried out when you first start working with your client and with the different pieces of equipment. And you can compare several pieces of equipment. So you could do it manually, you could do it with the slide sheets, you could do it with the Vendlet system, and you could show the differences in each task and how easy it is, how difficult it is, how much pain is involved for the client and the carer. There are actually a couple of other more complex ergonomic tools available that you can download from the internet. And these are the Rapid Upper Limb Assessment, usually known as Ruler, and the Rapid Entire Body Assessment, known as REBA. They are much more complicated to use, and we really don't have time to look at them today. But I do, however, recommend that you look them up on the internet and see if you can learn how to use them, because they're really, really good. And again, Harvey will be supplying those links for you. Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much, Jill. That's really useful. If anybody's got any questions, please put them in the chat box, and either Jill or myself will try and answer them. I saw one on there, a question on the safe working load of the Vendlet. There's two versions of it. The first one is the safe working load is 200 kilos or 31 stone. The Vendlet Barry goes up to 400 kilos, which is 63 stone. Do we have any questions on these tools or how to use them?
Yes, we have one question. This will be one for Jill. Why does the BORG scale start at 6?
It's based on heart rate. And so when you're fairly relaxed doing something like just sitting reading a book or watching TV, your average heart rate, and this was based on a sort of fairly fit average person, is 60 per minute. As you exercise more, work harder, your heart rate increases. And the scores reflect your heart rate. So basically stick a naught on the end and that reflects your heart rate. But they just did it 6, 7 to 8, 9 to 10. It's a bit more complicated. You could actually do this like another Likert scale, but I've found that actually funding panels quite like BORG scales for some reason. I don't know why. Does that help?
That's good. Thanks, Jill. Do we have any other questions for now? The question was, if there's somebody that has dementia, are there a different set of tools for those, or are there any tools that are more visual?
I don't think you'd really need that, because you're scoring. I mean, if they can tell you how much pain they're in, but you could make one more visual. I never have.
I guess the question is probably about somebody that hasn't got the communication skills or the cognitive ability to be able to tell you what their pain is.
Yeah. You can, I mean, certainly with the body map, you can usually work out where somebody has pain because of their reactions. And you might be able to work out how much effort is involved for them by how hard they're breathing. In terms of Likert scales, it's a bit more difficult if they can't tell you. And you could use pictorial charts, I suppose, to indicate different levels of pain. I'm not quite sure how you do that. It might not work for everybody. But I certainly, when I've been justifying equipment and I haven't been able to score the client, I have used the scales to score the carers, because the carers are important too, and we have to keep them safe and keep them well. And quite often, the provision of equipment will help the carers a great deal, and that can be a good part of your justification for the provision of it.
Yeah.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
And if anybody can make a pictorial scale on these, that would be great.
I have a question. It seems like a lot of the time funding panels are looking just at the monetary side of things. From your experience, what would you say, what weighting would they give to the monetary savings?
Quite a lot.
So
quite a lot.
How do we make sure that these ergonomic tools are giving the impact that, over and above the money question?
Really, when you're putting in your case for a piece of equipment, you need to really look at the benefits to the carer, the benefits to the client, the impact on the environment, and the monetary side of it. So really it's a balance of all of those. And having everything really clear and really simple, that they can look at a glance. I have sat on funding panels myself. And if you get presented with a massive case that's pages long, that takes you quite a long time to find the information you're looking for, they don't like that. What they want is something that's clear and simple and easy. So if you can use tools like this to show some of the benefits of the equipment, and if you can use some of the cost calculators, I know Felgains have a cost calculator, things like that are really, really useful. But clear and concise really is the way to go. But making sure you have all the information as well, of course.
Very good. Okay, that's good advice. Do we have any other questions, Ruben?
Yes. Got a question from Liz. Could you use the Likert with a scale of smile to unhappy faces to get children's or learning disabilities views?
Yes, definitely. You certainly could. And actually, you could probably use something like that with dementia patients or clients. And that could work fairly well. Again, I haven't done that, but you could do.
Very good.
There's also a comment from Stephanie about calculating cost savings. Do you want to tell them a bit more about the cost saving calculator?
Yeah. So I guess the same principle can be used for any piece of equipment. But what we've done specifically for the Vendlet is put together a cost benefit calculator. So if we were comparing the two tasks that we did just then, let's say your current client is being moved with in situ slide sheets, you can put in the current care package, so how many visits, how long those visits are, and the carer costs. And then on the other side of the sheet, you can put in how many care visits, how many carers, and the timing of the visits if you're using the Vendlet. And then it spits out a cost at the bottom of each side, and how much you would save using each method. And for something like the Vendlet, it's got the cost built into it, the cost of buying the Vendlet, and it tells you how long it would take to pay for itself, and how much you could save over a 5-year period and over a 1-year period. That will be one of the resources in addition to these. So the PowerPoint that we were showing parts of will be coming around on the email, as will the cost benefit calculator. So you'll be able to look at that in a bit more detail. Trust that answers the question. Do we have anything else, Ruben?
Can these scales be used successfully over several assessments to build up a case?
Yes, I think they probably could. And what I've done in the past actually is I have used them like that. And then what I tend to do is, so I've got evidence for the future, I will save my assessments, I will anonymize them. But you can still use them as evidence to show that this is a previous client X. If you can't assess with the equipment, I know often with the Vendlet system, you have to get your funding agreement ahead of the installation and the assessment. So you can't necessarily do your ergonomic tools with the client on the ventilator. But if you've got evidence from previous clients, then you can use those to support your case. In much the same way that you might use extracts from a study to support the case for something. It's evidence.
That's very interesting. I think that's it. So yeah, 40 minutes. That's good timing. We've got a lot of other good webinars coming up. Next week is on care for those living with dementia. So do make sure you register for that. Keep an eye out for the email invite on that. Thank you very much, Gill, for coming. I hope everyone found it useful. We will continue. We'll send the email round with all the resources on, and also a recording of the webinar. Thank you very much for coming. Thanks, Gill, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.